Cars are getting smarter, but where is that leaving our drivers? According to research, drivers are taking advantage of this technology to become more easily distracted. There's no question technology is improving the safety of cars, but according to insurance companies, some drivers are taking this technology for granted.
Distracted driver means you're going to tend to have more accidents.
Natalia Avinasov, a State Farm agent in the Los Angeles area, says the culprit of many accidents is a smartphone.
Smartphones are much more advanced than they ever were, so yeah, there's a lot of distraction either way by cell phones.
Features like blind spot monitoring and lane keeping assist can be useful while on the road, but insurance agents stress to not fully depend on it.
We used to learn to drive in the cars where there's no backup camera, no blind spot blinker or any kind of beeping that indicates that there's something around you. Nowadays, the people rely more on technology, and they shouldn't.
According to a recent study surveying the technology of lane keeping assist, which helps a driver from veering out of their lane, 42% of drivers with the technology use video chat while driving. That's compared to 20% of drivers engaging in video chat without the technology. Drivers with the same technology were also texting even more. 62%, according to the study, and 51% of drivers without the technology were also texting. But fully automated cars is something many are hoping for in the future, although there have been a few bumps in the road. Most recently, this video shows a driver completely asleep behind this automated car. The driver next to them even tried honking, but everyone remained asleep. Right now, we are only at a level 2 of automated cars, so safety experts are urging drivers, even with this advanced technology, to still be attentive while driving, as the technology is still far from being at a level 5. Regardless of the type of vehicle you drive, paying attention while behind the wheel is imperative for your safety, and even if it's only 5 seconds, the outcome could be life or death. Millions of gallons of toxic storm runoff are contaminating Southern California shorelines, and beaches are continually being closed as pollution is spilling over the border from Mexico. You wouldn't know that through this bird sanctuary that millions of gallons of raw sewage runs through here all the way to the ocean. In the last decade, there have been more than 1,600 beach closures off California's coast as a result of contaminated wastewater. But it's not outrage from environmentalists we're hearing from.
Having kids exposed to the toxins is incredibly scary on so many levels.
Bethany Case lives in Imperial Beach with her family and also runs a restaurant in the area. While Case loves her home, she can't help but wonder what the exposure of toxins will do to her children.
We live less than a mile from the beach, so this is where we recreate, but we also breathe in the air that comes from the river valley and the pollution. Even when it dries up, it lifts into the air and then we breathe that.
That same air is causing sickness among Border Patrol agents who work in the area.
We've had one agent nearly lost his arm after getting flesh-eating bacteria when he was doing some training out at the ocean.
Supervisory agent Amber Craig has been patrolling the area for some 20 years now. She says while there was still a risk coming into contact with sewage back then, the issues plaguing the area now are becoming downright dangerous. An overwhelming population boom in Tijuana since the NAFTA agreement, combined with an aging infrastructure not capable to handle such an increase, are reasons enough to be concerned about what travels through here. But a massive pipe breakage in 2017 has caused a major health concern for everyone. Here you can see severe rashes on this Border Patrol agent coming into contact with the contaminated water. CBP has conducted recent testing that revealed everything from E. coli to fecal matter in the water. The stench you can smell here is a result of the wastewater remaining stagnant before being treated, all while the Border Patrol is sitting here inhaling the effects. While the South Bay International Wastewater Treatment Plant does capture trash, Craig says the filtering process doesn't necessarily work when it's raining.
So it goes into these, little side canyons, and then when it rains, it's going to come here because this is the low point.
And while agents are working to defend national security, they're also dealing with tactics from coyotes smuggling illegal immigrants through the border.
The smugglers will tell people to come through the polluted water purposely because they know that that's a potential issue for the safety of the agents.
Do you think the smugglers have an idea that this is contaminated?
Oh, without a doubt. They know this is contaminated. This particular location especially because there's a lot of industry south of here in Mexico, and so we definitely find pollutants, industrial and medical waste through here.
While medical waste alone is dangerous enough, Dave Gibson with the San Diego Regional Water Control Board says there are even bigger health concerns to come, possibly an outbreak in the making.
Those tires, hundreds of them, make it down the valley. They are also breeding habitat for mosquitoes. And those mosquitoes are the mosquitoes that carry Zika, chikungunya, dengue, and yellow fever. And the immigrants moving into Tijuana right now from Central America, they're coming from countries where those diseases are endemic.
Gibson says while the issue of the runoff between Tijuana and San Diego needs immediate attention, he says that's not the only source of pollution. Raw sewage is also getting dumped farther south into a Mexican river, which also eventually makes its way into the U.S.
When they discharge it there, they're essentially discharging untreated wastewater. The oxidation ponds that they run it through do not treat that wastewater. And so you have about 40 million gallons per day of raw sewage landing on the beach. And then the onshore currents often carry it north, again across the border, affecting all the beach communities from Rosarito to Imperial Beach.
There are several lawsuits in the works, all pointing to the International Boundary and Water Commission violating the Clean Water Act. The State Water Board, the Surfrider Foundation, and the city of Imperial Beach have all filed similar litigation. Craig says both the U.S. and Mexico need to be compliant in seeking a solution, or people on both sides will suffer.
It's a terrible situation. I've seen pictures and video of folks that are living in very small, undeveloped areas, and there's streams of wastewater just flowing down where they're living and where their children are playing.
It's a problem the community says needs attention at the federal level.
Now, as millions of gallons continue to run through this 5-mile parameter, this community is hoping to work with Mexico so they can put an end to this contamination. About 50 blocks in total, roughly 4,200 people without homes live here on Skid Row. And now new health concerns are arising as the city is seeing a surge in homelessness.
The streets are getting a little more crowded in the City of Angels. The latest numbers reveal that Los Angeles County has seen a 12% jump in homelessness to almost 59,000. And within the city of LA, there's a whopping 16% increase. The study revealing an increase among those under the age of 25 as well as the elderly. Authorities partly blame the housing shortage inflating rent prices, forcing many on the streets. With as many as 75% of LA's homeless population out in the elements, an array of health issues continue to rise.
There is no clean water for them.
Yuri Lee, a holistic health expert, says their environment is a breeding ground for disease.
It's attracting all the elements of sickness and dirtiness into their life, and it is contagious.
But the homeless aren't the only ones getting sick. This police station in downtown Los Angeles is in the heart of Skid Row. One officer was recently diagnosed with typhoid fever. At least 5 other officers have similar symptoms. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, typhoid fever is extremely rare in the U.S. It reportedly spreads through contaminated food or water or through close contact with someone who's infected. But the piles of trash building up in encampments is also becoming dangerous. Just last year, a flea-borne typhus outbreak was tied to rat infestations and filthy conditions. And in 2017, there was a hepatitis A outbreak. We reached out to the Los Angeles Police Department, who said in a statement, "Unfortunately, our police officers often patrol in adverse environments and can be exposed to dangerous elements. They're currently working to mitigate the issue." The union representing those officers said in a statement to RT, "Officers worry enough about being shot or injured policing the streets of Los Angeles. They shouldn't have to worry about being infected with diseases they can take home to their families simply by showing up to work." All this comes as a decision was made last week to not put a limit on the amount of property that homeless people can keep on Skid Row. The thought of unlimited free storage is receiving mixed emotions among city officials. And we know that there were some officers, we know at least one who was in the area and contracted typhoid fever. Other ones are having symptoms. We don't know for sure what they have. But any advice to officers and people who might be out in the elements?
So obviously it's a very, common that you need to make sure that your hands are washed and that your body is clean. However, it is so important that your immune system to be strong.
And Lee says one of the best ways to keep your immune system strong is to avoid sugar at all costs.
It was just 3 years ago that LA voters approved a $1.2 billion housing bond to help with the homeless crisis. And officials say that money will go toward building 5,000 housing units within the next decade. Getting out and away from light pollution allows the naked eye to capture beautiful glowing streaks of light in the sky. And while space offers an array of shows year-round, the Perseid meteor showers are the #1 show to see. This year's Perseid meteor showers peaking around mid-August. Right now, the dazzling balls of fire are best seen in the northern hemisphere. We traveled to Joshua Tree in Southern California to see the beautiful phenomenon up close and personal. You can see the lights in the sky just sparkling under these settings. Getting away from the city lights increases your chances of seeing these meteor showers. And darker skies provide the most ideal conditions to see Mother Nature's light show. Monday's moon had an illumination of 60%. This offers a much better showing compared to what a full moon would reveal. This year, on the peak night, the moon was only 13% full around 10 p.m., which some scientists claim to be near perfect. Meteors are known as shooting stars, glowing streaks in the sky visible to us when tiny pieces of space debris burns up in the Earth's atmosphere. The showers originate from Earth entering the orbit of debris from the comet 109P Swift-Tuttle. It takes a whopping 133 years to orbit the sun. This incredible discovery was officially made back in 1862. However, some scientists say it's been observed for the past 2,000 years. Under peak circumstances, one can potentially see up to 100 meteors an hour. Joshua Tree is one of many national treasures offering incredible sky-gazing opportunities. And if you haven't had a chance to witness this anomaly for yourself, experts say you have until August 24th to see it yourself. The largest stockpile of nuclear waste in the U.S. is only 108 feet from the beach. The nuclear plant here at San Onofre was shut down in 2015 after a leak was discovered, and now the radioactive waste is being buried here. The only problem is it's on a major fault line, in a tsunami zone, and next to an interstate freeway. Just steps from this popular surfing beach in Southern California and yards from the Camp Pendleton military base lies this massive decommissioned nuclear plant run by Southern California Edison. It's the largest privately owned nuclear plant in the country. It follows the Hanford nuclear plant in Washington state, which is owned and operated by the government. Since the plant shut down in 2015, Edison obtained permits from the California Commission to bury these canisters underground. As of right now, 73 of the 29 are below the surface.
This is a matter of grave concern to us because spent nuclear fuel and water don't mix.
Charles Langley, executive director of Public Watchdog, says the energy company Edison chose the wrong location to bury 3.6 million pounds of radioactive waste.
There are actually fault lines that run underneath the facility. We've documented this in geological reports that were suppressed by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. It's in a tsunami zone. And it's also extremely vulnerable to terrorist attacks.
Nina Babiars, originally from Pittsburgh, lived through the 3 Mile Island nuclear accident in 1979. She believes San Onofre is a ticking time bomb.
It's still very prevalent to me that this not only could happen, but it has happened at 3 Mile Island. Of course, it has happened at Chernobyl. It's happened at Fukushima. And least we forget, it could happen at San Onofre.
In addition to the dangerous location, Langley says these canisters are as thin as a dime, unequipped to store radioactive nuclear waste.
When we investigated further, we discovered that the actual warranty for this containment system is only for 10 years, and the canisters themselves are only guaranteed to last 25 years.
We contacted Edison and they responded in a phone call asking for our exact questions. Once given, they refused to answer any of our inquiries directly, only referring us to their website. There, Edison says they are responsible until the U.S. Department of Energy finds a place for the fuel's disposal, and Southern California Edison is being proactive in seeking out options for the relocation of the fuel, including an off-site facility. Babiar says she's worried about a delayed emergency response. In fact, she says there's no way to supervise the canisters once they're underground.
There should have been a requirement for an underground monitoring system before one can ever went in the ground.
Well, the public watchdogs are looking in to see if they can get the permits revoked that allowed Edison to bury here. This as Edison and the group are in pending litigation. A good portion of the nation's produce, nuts, and dairy products originate here in California's Central Valley. So it begs the question as to why more than half of the failing water systems are located right here.
Carolina Garcia has lived in Tombstone, California for the past 10 years. Garcia's home, like the others in Tombstone, rely on domestic wells. After hers dried up, she couldn't use the tap water since it's contaminated. Recent water tests reveal levels of nitrate and other harmful toxins, and all chemicals measured being above the maximum contaminant level. While some residents are now receiving water deliveries from the government, Tombstone is not alone in this fight for clean water. This is a statewide issue.
Here at Stone Corral Elementary School, century-old pipes are contaminating the tap water with soil and bacteria.
This elementary school houses children who are still developing for much of the day. Whether through sprinklers or other means, they are heavily exposed to this contaminated water. These conditions resemble a developing world, not the richest state in the nation. According to the California State Water Resources Control Board, more than 300 public water systems in California serve unsafe drinking water. More than half of those systems are in the San Joaquin Valley. Just off State Route 99, you can see farmland is the heart of the valley, producing much of the nation's food. Close to 90% of the globe's almonds are harvested in the Central Valley alone. It's also famous for producing more citrus than Florida, more dairy than Wisconsin, as well as grapes, walnuts, pistachios, prunes, peaches, and cattle.
It's very likely that every single day, every American is eating something that originates within a 50-mile radius of where I stand right now.
Ryan Jacobson, a fourth-generation farmer, says clean water for all residents in the area is paramount for their industry.
You guys struggle with the amount of water that you need to use for the farms, and then some people don't even have clean drinking water.
That's absolutely unacceptable. Agriculture's been at the table trying to solve those issues. It's very, very critically important for us because these are people that are typically a part of our industry, a critical component of both working in the fields as well as just folks that are, dependent upon the local economy there in agriculture.
And while farmers want to make a difference, Jacobson says that politics can interfere with water management in finding an actual solution. Recently, Governor Gavin Newsom has proposed implementing a $140 million tax. The way he sees it, that money could pay for the needed water infrastructure in rural areas. But the idea is receiving a ton of backlash in the already heavily taxed state. Cindy Tuck with the Association of California Water Agencies says, "We think it doesn't make sense to tax a resource that is essential." Jacobson says it's vital for farmers to find a new source of water. As it stands right now, some farmers have no choice but to overpump groundwater. According to a study published in Nature Communications, overpumping can lead to arsenic concentrations in the water.
With less groundwater, some of those pollutants actually are obviously stronger because there's less water to dilute it.
Whether it's old pipes, overpumping groundwater, or chemical fertilizers, nitrate and other contaminants have serious consequences. Several studies have linked an increased risk of infant death to nitrate. High levels are also linked to an elevated risk of cancer in adults. And while the Central Valley has some of the most sophisticated and innovative technology to conserve water, farmers say they're still struggling to keep things afloat. Jacobson says the vast increase in population alone is straining the system.
This was all built for a state population of about 20 million Californians. We are now to 40 million Californians.
And while Governor Gavin Newsom hopes taxing California residents will help curb their water usage, farmers are looking for solutions elsewhere. But they know the future of their farms depends on clean flowing water, not only for the health of their farms, but for the community as well.